We've all been at one point whilst playing this game. You know, getting more experience, getting higher tiers when suddenly we can't afford a new tank. At first, we decide to not rush for a next tier. You know, unlock everything and then go with elite status. After that, this simply won't be enough, so we decide to play over and over our old tanks. For example, if we are tier 5 and want a tier 6, we will simply play tier 5 over and over till we will have enough money. But this won't work once we reach tier 7 and want a tier 8. At that point we simply need to start all over again and grind down something like a tier 5 or 6. So in other words, simply a tier that can earn some money. Hello guys, my name is coment and welcome to my first commentary video. Today I'll be talking about the best non-premium money tanks. I mainly want to point out that all of them are non-premium. This basically means that you can just simply grind them out and you don't need to pay like 30 or 50 bucks to just buy a single tank. Anyways, let's start this list with Swift and Flick French tier 5 light tank. This tank is called ELC AMX Bis. It's a scout, and if you are new to the game you probably don't know what scout means in this game. In this game, scout is basically a tank that can get quickly into some camouflage and then just simply spot the enemies from there, whilst not shooting because this will reveal you. As well, I must mention that every single scout is higher than a tier 5 because of a simple reason. Any lower tier simply doesn't know how to play with scout. They don't follow, they don't shoot the targets that the scout spots, and so on and so on and so on. Simply they don't know how to play with them. Anyways, this tank gets an awesome gun. It has 170 penetration and 240 alpha damage, which both are amongst the highest at a tier 5 and a tier 6. Plus, you don't get that many disadvantages with this gun. One of the disadvantages is 2.9 second aim time, which is quite alright for such a strong gun at a tier 5. As well, second disadvantage of this gun is only having 1.2k damage per minute. But of course you are scout, so you aren't there for shooting, so this won't be much of a problem. Whilst its gun might be great, it isn't actually the best thing about this tank. After all, it's a scout, so it has to be fast. So the best thing about this tank is actually its speed. Well, whilst its top speed of 65 km per hour isn't the greatest in the game, you get amazing 37 horsepower to ton ratio, which is actually the second highest in an entire game, beaten only by BT2 at a tier 2. This speed of course makes this tank hell of a lot of fun to play. It basically turns the casual World of Tanks game into something like Tokyo Drift, but in World of Tanks. Alright, so next tank on our list is gonna be German tier 5 medium tank called Panzer IV H. At first sight, this tank might look pretty average to you. Its speed is only 40 km per hour with pretty bad power to ton ratio, and its armor is as well pretty low with only 80 armor on the front, so really nothing much. But the tank is still really powerful. Why? You'll understand it when you will get hit by it. It actually gets 105mm derp gun, which has 350 damage with armor penetration shells or 410 damage high explosive shells. With damage this high, you'll be capable of one-shotting every single tier 5 that you can penetrate. Plus, that's not all, you will as well get only 8-second reload, which makes this gun have the highest DPM out of any tier 5 or tier 6 tank. I personally haven't played that much with this awesome gun, maybe 5 or 6 games, but I remember that I had 4 high caliber medals. So basically with this gun you get absolutely insane damage and you'll be almost always at the top of the scoreboard in damage dealt. Thus of course you get pretty high amounts of money. Alright, so the next up on this list is gonna be the British Box of Fun. If you don't know what am I talking about, it's the British Tier 6 artillery. The reason why so many players love it is the engine that is hidden inside of it. It is 500 horsepower, and if you combine that with its weight, which is 20.7 tons, you get 24.2 horsepower to ton ratio, which is by far the greatest out of any artillery in a game. In fact, it's so good that you can compete with some of the light tanks at your own tier. As well, your top speed isn't that bad either. You get 72.4 top speed. With the speed as good as it has, you get to shoot at enemies from a lot of different angles. There will be literally nowhere to hide from you. Because there's literally nowhere to hide from this tank, Wargaming had to give it a few nerfs. Prime example of that is its terrible gun. You get to have the lowest alpha damage and the lowest average penetration out of any tier 6 artillery. With this gun you will have trouble one-shotting and sometimes even two-shotting the tanks. So this gun is straight away the worst at a tier 6. Yet still it gets kinda fast reload, so it can be kinda useful to deal those critical hits to enemies and getting a lot of assistance damage. So yeah, there are some bonuses to this gun. But I can assure you that this tank is hell of a lot of fun to play. I'm not kidding. It's not the regular artillery that you are gonna have in your garage stuck forever and you are going to play it once per month. In an actual game, it literally forces you to constantly move, because you have only 350 maximal range to which you can shoot. So you have to constantly move, constantly adjust your angle. So yeah, it's fun to play. The 4-1 on this list is gonna be the Japanese Tier 5 heavy tank called the OI Experimental. This tank gets pretty nice gun actually. You have 300 basic alpha damage, which is more than enough to two-shot most of the same tier tanks, as well as three-shotting most of the heavies. To this you get 130 penetration, which is gonna be more than enough to penetrate up to tier 7, with pretty decent 10 seconds reload. The armor of this tank is actually rather nice. It's 70 to 75mm thick, which is amongst the highest at the tier 5. The problem of it is only the fact that it's poorly angled, so unless you know how to angle yourself properly, pretty much every single tank is gonna penetrate you, including your own self. If it comes to the speed of this tank, it's rather decent. You get 12 horsepower to ton ratio, which is pretty decent compared to other heavy tanks at your own tier, whilst you get 40 km/h top speed, which is definitely amongst the greatest at a tier 5. With both of these, you are awesome rammer. You are a heavily armored tank that can get up to 42 km/h speed, and you get 100 tons weight. With this, there's pretty much no other tank that can match you in ramming. And trust me, there's nothing more satisfying than just ram killing everyone. Overall, even though I hate this tank, I must accept that this tank is awesome for new people into this game that just wanna learn heavy tanks. It's simply awesome for learning how to side strafe, how to angle, and things like that. Simply heavy tank things. Anyways, moving on to the last tank on our list, the Nashorn. All of the strength of this tank comes from its gun. It has absolutely insane 203 average penetration, which is more than enough to butter through any armor up to tier 8. But there are far better armor penetrations at a tier 6, so how did Nashorn make it into the list? Well, that's pretty simple. It gets pretty high 240 alpha damage combined with 6 seconds reload. Combination of these two make him deal the highest damage per minute out of every single high armor penetration tank at a tier 6. Yet still, I hate this tank. But why? Well, its other stats are simply terrible. Just look at its speed. Its horsepower to ton ratio is only 12.5, whilst its top speed is only 40. That's only as high as the speed of all I experimental. And this tank is actually a heavy tank, not a tank destroyer. Plus to that, you are a paper tank. What I mean are that, well, you have only 30 armor at the front, 20 at the sides, and 20 at the back of the tank. I actually started talking about the tank itself without actually mentioning how accurate its gun is. It has only 1.9 seconds aiming time and only 0.32 gun dispersion. These two stats are so good that even tier 8s would be proud of them. Anyways, it's gonna be the end of this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, give it a like. If you did not, give it a dislike, because I wanna know that I should improve. Anyways, subscribe for more, and at the end of this video I just quickly wanna put the list for about a half of a minute so we can pause it and look at the pros and cons on each and every single tank on this list.